So I guess it's best to do this late rather than never, because let's be real here. I'm sure many of you are terribly surprised that I didn't cover this vehicle at the very beginning, and there's a very good reason for that. In fact, there's a set of reasons. But welcome back to not only another talking head, but this is likely going to be the last one for this update round, simply because the update should be dropping either... You know what's funny, actually? It might even drop by the time you're watching this or announced. I have no idea. I don't plan this. I think Gaijin's going to drop the update on a Tuesday, maybe next week. I'm pretty sure it's going to be later this week. So if I drop this around that time, I do apologize. But I do have to give you guys a quick disclaimer, as always, saying that this is the dev server after all, which means that everything I'm going to be talking about is entirely subject to change. Armor values, firepower, mobility, reload rate, it doesn't matter. Things might change by the time the main game comes out, and what I say right now might be entirely irrelevant because Gaijin will decide to either balance, nerf, or buff this vehicle in particular. So without further ado, let's talk about the Russian T90M and all its glory. Now, if you're someone who is familiar with any bit of my content, be it here on YouTube, over in the live streams here on YouTube and on Twitch, or maybe even on the personal side of things over on Discord, you would know that I'm actually a Russian main. That's kind of a very not so well-known fact about me. My first nation I ever ground out back in 2015 was the Soviets at the time. And when it comes to the real world aesthetics, I wouldn't really say performance, but that dives into the realm of politics, which we won't get into, of course. Russian tanks just look pretty. They always have been. Personally, I would love to own a T-72 at some point in my life. I mean, I won't be that big of a creator, but let's just say I am one day, okay? I'm gonna buy a T-72 or a T-55 and park that thing in front of my house. And that really leads into one of the reasons as to why I didn't cover this at the very beginning, because there would have been some personal bias to it. Now, I have been wanting the T90M for years now. Ever since we got the T72 or the first T90, it clicked in my head that one day we're going to be getting the T90M, and I would love to see it, although it may not be the most well-performing, brilliant vehicle, and I don't expect it to be. It has some features in the game that just makes me want this over anything else, really. And just to follow up with the other reason as to why I didn't want to cover this at the very beginning is because I didn't want to give you guys some false expectations for how this vehicle may perform. The dev server has been getting updated as of late, and this vehicle has seen some updates as well, which means that the spoiler may not be as broken, it may not be as efficient, or it may not be as good. Who knows? And since this is the very last day of the dev server, I figured if we're going to be getting any changes, I think it's going to be right now for the most part, in lieu of the update dropping very soon. So enough about my reasoning as to why I didn't cover this video early on. Let's dive into the details of the T90M. But first, let's do a quick run through of the vehicle. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention that the gameplay of me just killing AI is just for fun, okay? I had to have some background filler footage of the T90, and I know I look like a tryhard playing against AI, but let's be real here. It's just for filler content, okay? I had some people come at me in my comments saying I'm tryharding against AI. You know what? Practice like you mean it, you know? But anyways, let's go over the details of this vehicle, right? Look at this monstrosity. It is beautiful. I'm sorry, I'm looking at this thing and it's making me all giddy inside because I just love the look of the T90. Now, take everything you know from the T80 BVM, the T72, and the original T90A, and kind of just pick and choose some of the best while keeping some of the worst attributes of the T90. For example, you get relics all over the place. I mean, if you take a look at the X-ray, you get slat armor in the rear, you get relicked all over the sides of the turret, which is weird, by the way, because, you know, you're doubling up the ERA, right? This panel right here protects 20 against kinetic. We won't talk about chemical because that's kind of a given. And then 200 on the back plate right here for another, well, again, 200 for 220 in total. But if you take a look at this right here, it defends against 250. I mean, shouldn't this technically be superior to the flat one right here? I never understood that. There's logic to it. I can't seem to find it. Again, relic all over the place. You also have, of course, that welded turret, which is pretty tanky for the most part. It's not really that good on the T90A from what I saw, but it's still It's a tough nut to crack for sure, and this isn't even done. That's odd. And then of course you keep the transmission. I'm sure it's a stronger transmission overall. I mean, this is like out of my realm of knowledge, guys. Okay, so bear with me here, right? 4.2 in reverse, 60 going forward. I believe the engine is the same as the T90s, so it's not even that powerful of a vehicle, but again, modernized, which means that it might move a little bit better. It feels like it in the game for sure. And then if we take a look at, of course, the barrel, I mean, not just the barrel, excuse me, the targeting vertical speed here, 40 degrees with an ace crew, 40 degrees. That's better than even some NATO tanks. Yeah, right. But of course, it is, after all, a T90, which means that 7.1 seconds of reload firing 3BM60 is going to be your go-to. Now, I've been told that that's not accurate. It might be a little bit better. I don't think it's going to change. I think it's going to stay like this, which in my opinion balances out the vehicle, right? Great optics, and you also get a commander sight, a CITV. That's right. Now, unfortunately, this thing might catch frag, but you're not really going to have to worry about that. But most importantly, there's one feature on this tank that no other vehicle in the game has, and I'll get more into detail about it throughout the entirety of this video, and that is a committed ball liner. That's right. This is the first quote-unquote, I'm going to say it like that, vehicle in the game to feature a physical spall liner, not only for the crew itself, but also for the carousel. That's right. So you're doubling it up pretty much. And this one I think is going to benefit you quite a bit. And then if we take a look at the modules of the vehicle itself, at least from the time that you're watching this, I don't think anything else is going to change. You get a laser warning receiver paired with a laser rangefinder, which means that anyone who lasers you, you're going to see it. If you don't see it, let's just say you might need thicker glasses than mine. You also get the additional ERA block, which only gives you, at least from what I could tell, a little bit more ERA on the side of the hull. Nothing really else changes for the most part. But of course, I would recommend you keep it on. It might add a little bit more weight, but let's be real here, it's gonna save your butt. But really, when it comes to the rest of the vehicle, that's it, right? Actually, I forgot one thing. Targeting speed, 40 degrees a second. This thing is fast. Is that even better than the BVMs? Hold up. Yeah, 34 versus 40. Dude, you're gonna be able to make snapshots on this thing so well. I'm excited. I really am. But let's talk about the really big elephant in the room, and that is the introduction, the proper introduction of spall liners. Now, if you're familiar with any vehicle, any modern vehicle in the real world, most vehicles feature some form of spall lining or spall protection in the form of Kevlar or any sort of composite materials, rubberized materials, etc. And, you know, the use of that is very simple. The vehicle gets penetrated, the spall liner catches the extra spalls. It probably won't capture the base kinetic projectile, but at least you won't have a bunch of shards running around your tank as much as you otherwise would without it. Now, if you play any bit of top tier Russia, and I'm talking the T80 BVM, the T72B3, the T80U, they're not very easy vehicles to destroy. You can shoot them in the sides as much as you want, and sometimes the rounds will refuse to spall, almost as if it acts like a light tank, where the round just goes right through, doesn't spall, doesn't hit the ammunition, and you have to shoot the damn thing multiple times. In fact, my go-to for when it comes to destroying Russian vehicles is knocking out their breeches and barrels as quickly as I can and going for the crew. I don't even focus on the ammunition because I already know for a fact, unless I get a direct hit on someone who's probably carrying, you know, less than 20 rounds at a time, I would rather go for the crew for a guaranteed kill. Now, of course, that falls into the realm of Russian bias, which, you know, may or may not exist. I'm not here to give you my opinion on that simply because that falls again into the realm of politics in the game. But what I will say is if you do the exact same thing to, say, German tanks, the Leopards, the Abrams, oh man, that 3BM60 nukes those tanks incredibly easily. How do I know that? I do it all the time. And trust me, I trust a side shot more on an Abrams than I do on a T80 BVM, or even this when it comes in. And I think that's where a lot of the controversy and the hate for this vehicle is going to come in. It features something that some vehicles should have had since the late Cold War. Since I think the Centurions were the first ones to ever implement some form of spall lining. And yet one of the most modern vehicles in the game is going to feature it stock. Yeah, that there's really not a whole lot else to say about that. But all right, let's do a quick flip of the coin and just take a look at the glaring weaknesses of this vehicle. I'm going to pull you away from the gameplay once again to take you back to the T90. One thing I'm not really bringing up, which I'd like to right now, is how simple these vehicles can be to destroy. Now, it doesn't matter what Russian vehicle you engage, a T72, a T80, T90, and so on and so forth. Every single one of these vehicles share the exact same vulnerability. Although they might be lessened in the T90 to some degree, they're all going to be pretty much the same, right? Lower glacis shot is kind of a given. Breach shot is also another given. One area in particular that I don't trust anymore is the optics, the drive report, right? Now, in the past, the name of the game was shoot at the drive report, you basically kill the damn thing. But because of the advent of volumetric, you have a higher chance of bouncing your shot on the optic right here. Trust me, I've done it, all right, plenty of times. So this is not really the most reliable shot. And then when you take into account the fact that shells can kind of shatter and darts do shatter on occasion, it just doesn't really tell you. It'll basically be, you know, penetration and then it disappears in the turret ring. I don't know why it does it. It does it for me sometimes. General side shots, turret side shots, the neck area, which I really wouldn't trust, again, because volumetric, are all going to be the big major weaknesses of this vehicle. And of course, you have the top of the turret. Now, one of the easiest spots I like to engage T80s and T90s is the very top of right here, which may not seem like a whole lot. Even right now, with all this extra protection that it's showing, you can still hit this area relatively reliably. And as you see right there, put a dart right in the middle of that commander or gunner's face. Which is kind of sad too, because this thing holds down better than a Chally. Yeah, I know, right? My British mains, you guys still suffer. Even with the Chally 3 coming in, you're still gonna kind of suffer a bit. Now, if you're someone who is very familiar with destroying Russian vehicles at top tier, this is not gonna be any different. This is gonna be the exact same thing, same shots, same spots, etc. Which means that, yes, this vehicle may look overbearing. It may look overpowered, but at the end of the day, it has crap mobility. It has glaring weak spots that has been familiar for years now. I think for the last 4 or 5 years, this thing has been the exact same way to, well, be destroyed ever since the advent of the T64A back in what, 2018, 2017, I think? But really, that is going to remain to be seen once the major update drops. And you can bet I'll be dropping a video on this on day 1. So there you go. There's my take on the Russian T90M. I kind of wish I did this a little bit sooner, but I just, again, wanted to wait for Gaijin to quote unquote balance this thing to near release levels. Will it change in the major update? Likely, I'm pretty sure it will, because Gaijin loves to do that stuff at the very beginning. But really, I'm just excited for this thing. I truly am. But let me know what you guys think about this down in the comment section below. Did Russia need this? Probably not, to be honest, but hell, I'll take it. Bring on the BMPT next, please. And while you're swinging on down there, don't forget to check out my links to, say, my Patreon, which I do some 4K photo drops of the thumbnails. I also do various other stuff, such as communicate with you guys more on a one-on-one, as well as sharing the background stuff, my office, etc., on a more personal level. There's also a free tier, so don't feel bad for checking it out if you want to. Most of what I put up there is relatively free, except for some like hard exclusive stuff. You'll see it when you get there, I promise. And again, my 3% discount, you know, it still exists. Just use it as you seize it. Cool, awesome. Anyways, I hope you guys did enjoy this talking head. It is my last one for this update, and I will see you not only in the next video or even the streams, but most certainly in the air superiority update, which should hopefully be dropping soon. We'll see. But I'll see you next time.